You want the facts? We want to share them with you. Together, we'll boldly unpack the deeper truths inside the real estate industry's most relevant issues. This is Getting Real with Rob. Here's your host, Rob Namfeld.
Hello and welcome to Getting Real with Rob. Today's guest is Fran West, the Director of Development for Crescent Communities. Welcome, Fran. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Rob. Happy to be here.
Good. Thanks for stopping in. So to begin today's episode, we will start with our ever popular lightning round of questions. Let's just break the ice this way. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions. Rapid responses are best, and we're just going to go through them real quick. All right?
Sounds great.
Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right. What's the first thing you ever won?
Well, I don't win a lot of things. I have to work hard for a lot of things. But first thing I ever won that I can recall was a gift card at Alive After 5 in Charlotte when I moved here out of college.
Do they still do those?
I don't know if they do, but it was the one uptown on the Wells Fargo, or I guess Wachovia Plaza. And it was a gift card that led me to meeting my hairdresser of 17 years.
Wow.
And so that is probably one of the first things I've ever won. And yeah, probably the longest person I've known in Charlotte.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Positive.
A little different.
Way to start. Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. All right. Where do you go to relax?
Seabrook
Okay.
Beach.
What is the one place in the world that you haven't visited that you'd like to go?
There's a ton of places that I haven't visited.
Give me a top 3.
I want to do the rim to rim hike at the Grand Canyon.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go to Lake Como. And I've never been out west. And my grandmother likes to Yellowstone. And my grandmother's always like, you should know your own country before you know other countries.
That's a good point,
and
actually.
So now that my girls are 5 and 8, I think we're probably going to do more traveling, probably out to go to the Yellowstone and go to the Grand Canyon and things like that.
So what's the furthest west you've been?
Oh, I've been to California.
Okay.
But I haven't done after Yellowstone, I want to go to Montana and go on a dude ranch.
Right.
Okay. I want to do the whole Western.
Maybe do a few 14ers in Colorado, stuff like that.
Yeah, not sure.
Okay.
But we'll figure it out.
Okay. All right, cool. All right. What's your favorite sport?
Tennis.
Okay.
I know. Perfect.
Yeah, perfect. What's your favorite pizza topping?
Don't eat a lot of pizza. But Mac gets that Hawaiian pizza from Hawthorne's.
With the pineapple on it?
Yes. And I cannot. I know it's polarizing.
Well,
but
it is.
But I
As
can't
my 5-year-old would say, that's illegal.
Well,
pineapple on pizza.
Tell your 5-year-old that she needs to taste that one. It's pretty delish.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Different strokes. What are you green thumb or not?
Was black thumb until COVID.
Okay.
Something happened.
Really?
My plants stay alive. I actually grow flowers and tomatoes. I don't know. Something happens. I switch flip.
Oh, okay. Haven't heard that before, but that's pretty cool. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, name of your favorite child.
Oh,
just kidding.
Rob.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding. I just wanted to see how you'd react. All right, let's move on.
Great.
Okay. So as Director of Development, tell us a little bit about your responsibilities. What do you do in your position? And then maybe even some of the stuff you did before that kind of prepared you for this.
Yeah. So I'm a director of development at Crescent on our commercial team. I technically am special projects, which I love to tell Brendan is perfect for me. But so my main day-to-day job is we have an office tower in Uptown or in South End called Carson and Tryon that we have been working on the design development of and hope to pre-lease and construct it soon. So day-to-day management of that. Work on the River District here in Charlotte.
Okay.
Work with the team that's been doing that for years to help on the commercial pursuit side. And then I work across our portfolio on our commercial team to help with any, my background in economic development, which I'll talk about in a second, but help on any of those pursuits and best position Crescent as a partner of choice. Okay. So prior to Crescent, civil engineer background out of Clemson. And then throughout some time transitioned, eventually coming back to Charlotte and working for the city of Charlotte. Worked in our engineering department and had always heard of this lady named Tracy Dodson. And I was like, I want to go work for Tracy. And she was at Lincoln Harris at the time. working on the River District. So this is all like a full circle moment.
Yes.
And then ended up working for her at the city of Charlotte, leading business recruitment on her team in economic development, which I did through the fall of 2021. Took a little break and then ended up at Crescent in March of 2022. Been there a little over a year. And so taking that experience specifically on the business recruitment, economic development lens and helping advance the commercial team at Crescent, it's really been a delight. It's been really fun to take all of those relationships and bring them together to create something special here. Still working with people that I love on projects that are cool.
That's great. You said you took a little break. I did the same. I actually retired twice before I came back. What did you do on here during your break?
I just really burned out. I was part of the Great Resignation. It was hard during COVID. I had 2 little kids and a lot was changing in the economy. And Matt, my husband, works for Atrium Health, and we all know the healthcare challenges that went on. And so I took 5 months off and played mom. And it was great. I poured into my kids and to my husband and to my family and friends and had really nice, relaxed holidays. And COVID was still, I don't remember where it was, but daycare ended up closing for 5 weeks. So really got to play mom. And
spent some time at the pool.
Yeah. And so it was great. We had a really, it was fun, but I did realize and affirm my decision that I love solving problems and like adding value. And for me, that joy is found in working. I was excited to come work at Crescent.
Well, interestingly enough, your LinkedIn profile, you define yourself as a solution finder.
Yeah.
You also discuss being always curious. Why did you decide to use those specific adjectives?
I love solving problems. So again, civil engineer background, now, ended up in economic development, business recruitment, now in commercial real estate development. And I think the underlying thread there is I don't care what the problem is. I just love to work with a team to get to a solution, whether it's a team of my peers or colleagues or people from around the community. I love being a part of that story and solving problems. I like to run to them instead of away from them. I think it's fun. And then just being curious. Like, I love to challenge the status quo, right? Like, I love to say, how can we do this better or differently? Or what if we did this instead of that? Or, how can we reimagine something that was previously thought to be, different? And so I think embracing curiosity is important. And I think sometimes embracing it in a positive light too. So like it could be perceived as challenging, right? Or like, you're always thinking of different things. But I think embracing curiosity is like a great skill set for people to have. And I like to always see how we can innovate differently, right?
You're probably extremely effective when it comes to convincing nearby residents that the new development is a good idea, because you convinced me. Right?
Always be selling.
Speaking of sort of big positive impacts for the city, let's talk about the River District a little bit.
Yeah.
Can you give our listeners sort of a quick snapshot of sort of how that got off the ground, where we are now, where we're going, and then any other detail related to that might be interesting to know?
So, just taking the sidebar here, like I used to work for the city of Charlotte, business recruitment, right? Like we felt like we knew the city. I literally had never scratched the surface on the River District. Now that I'm at Crescent, I've learned so much. And, I worked for Tracy Dodson, who was part of the original team on the Lincoln Harris side for the River District. And so, it's been around since, I think in the public eye, probably since 2016 when it went through a big rezoning and the vision. And for the past 5, 6, 7 years, it's been in a planning and infrastructure phase. So again, it's 1,300 acres beside the Catawba River and the airport that's generally undeveloped. I mean, we have to put in roads, water, sewer, power, fiber, and any kind of what we take for granted living in, urban Charlotte.
Right.
Is a whole different landscape. And so we've spent the past 7-ish years working on that. West Boulevard, which right now dead ends essentially at 485, was under construction. extend all the way to Dixie, and it'll deliver in next year around this time. And we're doing the site planning, and we'll be going vertical on Westro, which is the heart of the River District. So the River District, 1,300 acres, it's going to have 2,500 homes. It was envisioned for a large office employment district. It's going to have a riverfront park, lots of trails and green space. I mean, it's really will be the newest, coolest place in the city. Master planned community. All the details are thought through. But the heart of it is this town center called Westro. And it'll have office and retail and homes and apartments. And it'll have a 2-acre working farm where it's really teaching the community around sustainable farm, like how to grow your own produce and how to live off the land in a way, which is stewardship is a core tenet at the River District, like how we're protecting our environment. That's super important to Crescent. And so it's super important at the River District. And there'll be an event center and parks, and there's going to be a restaurant, and we're going to be out there and having a cocktail while our kids are playing on the playground. And there'll be farmers markets on the weekends, and it will be this very inclusive and activated space. And so that'll deliver summer of 25.
That's so it almost sounds like a self-contained, like a sort of a subset of Charlotte, really,
it's
out
there.
It's
a market away, right?
Yeah, right.
And it'll be, they'll have this like great riverfront park, which is the city within the city. It'll be City of Charlotte, believe it or not, it's only riverfront access. That, we hope to have, great programming and activation. How can we partner with centers like the Whitewater Center, right? And think through it's a
great idea.
They call it like a blue trail, like connecting on the Catawba.
Okay. Okay.
There's just a lot of ideas out there on like how we don't want to just build to build. We want to create something really special. It's legacy building, right? Not just for us, but for the city.
Yeah.
And the price points, are, it's envisioned to be inclusive of all. Like in our first phase, there's 87 affordable housing units being delivered.
Okay.
So it's intended to be diverse and inclusive and more, I think, fitting with what today's talent from my old job, like today's, society wants, right?
When you say affordable, what is that? Do you measure that on area median income or okay?
Yeah.
What's the?
I think there's a split.
Okay.
Laurel Street is partnering. So we donated the land,
Okay.
and Laurel Street is executing on it. And I think they got some trust fund dollars as well.
Okay. That's great.
I don't remember the split. I do think there's 30, 50, 80. I think there's some at every level. I don't know the mix.
Okay. No, that's great.
And there's an affordable housing commitment just with the River District in general as well. So there'll be more of that.
Okay. Yeah. What else we've heard a little bit about tennis lately.
Yeah. So how can you miss it? It was a big night last night. County Commission approved up to $30 million towards the tennis facility.
On the heels of the city council.
Yep.
Right?
City council approved, probably close to a month ago, $65 million. The state is looking towards that as well in their budget. And so for those of you who don't know, we're working with a group out of Charleston who owns a tournament up in Mason, Ohio, that they're looking at relocating to Charlotte and at the River District that will host one of ATP 1000 tournament. So it's a tennis tournament that leads up to the U.S. Open. All the big players come. It's a 2-week tournament. It'll draw 300,000 people to Charlotte over 2 weeks and have a really large economic impact on the city. Kind of like the President's Cup, but every year, right? So, and it has an international draw, an international presence. And so that's super exciting for us. It's something that we never envisioned. It's on the western edge of the River District, so closer to 485. Westro that I was talking to you about, and the river's on the other side, right? Okay. So there's some separation. But we're super excited for the opportunity, and we're hopeful that BMOC Capital chooses Charlotte and that the incentives look like they're going to play forward in their favor.
Well, and they're also bringing about 2/3 of the dollars in terms of the investment. So that's pretty significant.
Yeah. I mean, they're looking at, I think they're saying it's around $400 million.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah. It's a lot of tax revenue coming into the city and county. And it's also, a big play for the entertainment workforce here. And with concert. It's not just going to be a 2-week tennis tournament. It's going to be lots of concerts and activation and events. And I think it just adds to the River District as this destination, maybe more regionally and in the Southeast, as opposed to just in Charlotte, if that makes any sense.
Yes.
So we at Crescent are really looking at like how do we best partner with this, and how does it help shape the River District, and how does the River District and our core principles and values help shape tennis? And there's this really cool partnership that could happen with us and the city and the county and BMOC to just further enhance the place that we're building.
That's
So
exciting.
there's a lot of excitement, and hopefully we'll know soon who they're going to choose. But it's blending my old world with my new world, my old people with my new people.
Right.
So it's been really special for me to go down this path.
Well, and that would add to the significant portfolio of sports-related amenities here in Charlotte.
Right.
Pretty big deal.
I think earlier this year we were ranked as like the 3rd best city for sports business.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, again, like this is just adding to that, to your point.
Yeah. Yeah.
There were some good comments made last night too around that. So I think Charlotte's just evolving.
That's good. That's exciting. All right. So going back to the general kind of your day to day. What do you think? What would you suggest are your biggest obstacles you face? And then what makes your job easy?
Let's start with the easy.
Don't we all like to do that?
I mean, I work with great people. Like I am driven by people.
You do. Crescent's been a long time.
Oh,
pretty big
the
member.
best
We love those
people.
guys. Yep.
I mean, I am so thankful. I have the best time at work.
Mm-hmm.
And I work with great people who are smart and talented and kind people. And then we work on super cool projects. So when you blend really great projects and really great people, it's just a joy. It's a gift to work at Crescent. I think the hard part right now is, time and money, right? I think money's hard to come by.
Because there's interest rates, things like that.
The interest rates. And there's so many great ideas that are kind of just hanging out there until, the capital markets kind of settle a little bit. And it just takes time, right? It takes time to get these things done. And I think when you are so passionate about things, like you want them to happen tomorrow.
Right.
And that's just not the case. And, just on a comical note, like, of course, I love to design, or we all love to build these beautiful things, but they cost money. And so on one of my projects right now, it's like, let's value engineer. We got to kind of cut some costs. And I'm like, oh no,
That's not fun.
that's not fun. But yeah, people and projects, I mean, I think outweigh any of the challenges that come your way.
Speaking of people, you have to deal with people on a pretty regular basis. Neighbors near potential development areas. Most of our listeners are related to the real estate industry in some way. Realtors, builders, both commercial, residential, et cetera, developers. What would you tell other developers are sort of the secrets, whether they're smaller operators or larger, for sort of the hints for getting projects approved and through the process? What are the things that you do that make you successful?
I think being kind and just being authentic.
Relating.
And like knowing what you want and sticking to your story and understanding, I think neighbors is others outside adjacent. And then I think there's also like, as you're moving things through a process that may be more regulatory, but I think your brand sticks wherever you go and however you treat people. And I think being able to walk into different situations, especially if you're continuing to work in the same community like Charlotte, and having the reputation that, she's kind, she's going to approach this with integrity, and she's going to do what's right. And I think making sure that you stick to that. I think we all can get tied up in like a sense of urgency and we got to get this done, and how can we manipulate the situation to like get what we need? But, that follows you. And I think really just taking the time to, let it run a process and doing it in a way that's respectful and, keeping and doing what's right at the end of the day is important, because this is the smallest big town you'll ever live in, and being on the city side, I saw a lot of that where people weren't kind,
Mm-hmm.
And I think especially when you are working with government employees, they work really hard and have a lot to do in a short amount of time.
And we expect a lot from them.
We expect a lot from them. And like, we want them to make our priority their priority.
Right.
And they've got 22 people like me saying the same thing.
Right. No,
That's
true.
It's like, how do I make your job easier? How do I make it easier for you to get to a yes than to come at it from a no because you're getting an incomplete picture?
Right.
And so I think like really just treating people the way that you want to be treated and you would expect to be treated in that situation will go a long way.
So you talk about kind of a big, small town. There are people moving here that are not going to stop because of the places they're moving from. That's my story.
We've built a great place, Rob. It's a phenomenal place.
We have. So what do we do to keep it going in that direction and not screw it up?
I think we're on the heels of the UDO, right? UDO implementation. And I think, again, you, Rob Rebick, has worked really hard on the UDO, the real estate community.
Still got some work to do.
Charlotte. But creating a framework, I think sometimes we get so driven by policy that we miss a big picture and we miss those implications. So like, how do we create a framework that we believe is going to get us to our end goals, but allows for nimbleness and flexibility to ensure that the projects that we do know are right and they will be successful can move forward. But there's a lot of lessons to be learned, right? And we're going to make mistakes as a city, and we're going to learn from other people's mistakes and do it right and better. But in my opinion, it's fixing the things we know we can fix and we're confident in, and then leaving us flexibility in the ones that we're not sure about, but we think this is the path that we want to go down.
It sounds like patience are important too.
Yeah, and that's not most people's strongest. It's not mine.
We're both parents of small children, so I think
we are both parents of small children and have full-time jobs.
Correct, yes. And our spouses do as well.
Correct. The juggle is real.
It is. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add? Things that you're working on, or any additional advice to Rebick members?
No, I think it's an exciting time to be in Charlotte. And I think there's a lot of growth opportunities in all different types of industries. And I think that, putting on my old hat of business recruitment, just continuing to invest in infrastructure in Charlotte, especially around schools and childcare and early education and what that looks like as a community. Because when people are moving here and when companies are moving here, they're going to look to that. That's going to be a measure of, is Charlotte the right choice for them? Housing availability is another one, right? That's a hard one for us to tackle. But hey, we're going to build houses in the River District eventually, right? We're going to do our part. But I think really, how do we as a community just look at it holistically? And it's more than just like UDO and things like that. But, as evidenced in the past month, right? We had a city council and county commission bring forward an economic development deal in record time. And a special shout out to Leslie Johnson and Tracy Johnson, who did that on their teams. And, but that's a nimbleness, right? That's a nimbleness within our local government to be able to advance opportunities and seize those opportunities as they present themselves.
Right. And that should be celebrated. Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, thank you, Fran, for getting real with Rob.
Thanks, Rob, for having me. This was very fun.
Fran West, Director of Development at Crescent Communities. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Getting Real with Rob. This podcast is produced by the Real Estate and Building Industry Coalition in Charlotte, North Carolina. Learn more about us at rebic.com. That's REBIC.com. We'll talk to you next time.